Namaste, Namaskaram, Vanakkam, Namo Namaha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Hindu Yoga Dharma. Continuing with our video podcast series of Decolonization Without Hatred, we looked at the early invasions and British colonialism and sailing out of India. And today we're going to look at an important question. Do you think colonialism is over? Well, we better think again. Colonialism is often imagined as a phenomenon of the past. Foreign armies, occupied territories, imperial flags, distant empires ruling conquered lands. Many people assume that once colonies achieved political independence, colonialism was over. Yet, this assumption may overlook one of the deepest realities of history. Colonialism was never only about the land. It was also about language, categories, memory, identity, economics, and control over meaning itself. Colonialism is the process by which one power, or even one person, extends political, economic, cultural, or intellectual control over another person or a vast number of people, often reshaping the conquered society according to the colonizer's own categories, interests, and worldview. In other words, perfect example of narcissism. Now, while political colonialism may formally have ended, colonial patterns of thought can continue long after the armies lead. This mindset interprets other civilizations through its own categories and then mistakes those categories for a new reality. The colonial mindset is not merely the occupation of territory, it is the tendency to interpret other civilizations through one's own eyes, if you will. Then see that as the new reality. It reduces living traditions into perhaps simplified administrative or ideological boxes. It classifies, controls, repackages, and eventually redefines the meaning of another culture, religious, spiritual tradition, according to the outsider's mindset. Now, this process, of course, didn't occur only in politics and territory. It occurred semantically, which remembers the science of word knowledge, religious, spiritually, and culturally. One of the clearest examples is the modern global misunderstanding of the word caste. Pre-colonial India did not originally use the Portuguese word caste. Instead, Indian civilization possessed concepts such as varna, natural proclivities, occupations, and jati birth. These were complex and also regional, overlapping, contextual, and very fluid social realities. Yet, colonial administrators increasingly interpreted Indian society through European legal and racial categories. Through censuses, classification systems, and bureaucratic codification, fluid social reality became frozen into rigid administrative identities. Colonialism did not invent hierarchy in India. Hierarchy is part of all civilizations, the animal world as well. But what it did do, it formalized, rigidified, and began to weaponize it. The same broader dynamic can also be observed in modern forms of religious, spiritual, and cultural appropriation. Big difference between adapting and appropriation. The issue now is not merely that ideas travel between civilizations, they always have. Human cultures have also borrowed, exchanged, translated, and adapted, not stolen and appropriated, though that has taken place to the present. The deeper issue arises when the sacred traditions are extracted from their original context, stripped of their philosophical depth, commercialized, and then redefined through outsiders' minds. While the original civilization, religion, spiritual tradition, gradually loses interpretive authority over its own symbols and terminology. This process could be called semantic colonialism. Look at yoga, a profound religious discipline rooted in Hindu dharma. Remember, the Sanskrit Hindu word yoga means yuj atman brahman cha. To yoke to your inner essence we call atmana and brahman. Per se, it has absolutely nothing to do with the physical body. It was about atmadarshana, spiritual, if you will, a liberation. Profound philosophies, the guru-disciple relationship, self-transformation. But it's been consumed and reduced into modern consumer culture to fitness branding, entertainment, stretching routines, luxury wellness marketing, or novelty trends such as goat yoga, beer yoga, and the highly commercialized hot yoga. A street term. Remember, if it's not Hindu yoga, it's all hot yoga, stolen. And remember when people say yoga was India's gift? No, India didn't give it to the world. It comes from the Hindus. And what do you do when you receive a gift? Do you deny the giver? Do you turn around and sell the gift? All of this illustrates how sacred traditions can become detached from their original metaphysical foundations and transformed into marketable lifestyle products. Now, the concern here is not cultural exchange, but the gradual loss of context. The Sanskrit word yoga originally referred to union with the Atmana through karma yoga, Hindu ethics, bhakti yoga, Hindu devotions, raja yoga, Hindu contemplations, jnana yoga, Hindu studies outwardly and inwardly, hatha yoga, Hindu devotional postures, mantra yoga, Hindu devotional chants, japa yoga, Hindu devotional chants on beads, amala, nada yoga, Hindu devotional songs, music, bhajans, kirtans, nata yoga, Hindu devotional dance. All this stimulates the inner awakening, Kundalini yoga. And it's not just the word yoga. Look at the word guru, for example. A guru is a Hindu teacher. So a Sadguru who says they're not a Hindu is truly not a Sadguru. But now what is a guru? It can casually refer to business experts, marketing consultants, internet influencers. Karma once described profound philosophical principles of action, causation, ethics, rebirth, and it's frequently reduced to simplistic notions of perhaps cosmic revenge or internet memes. Chakras and Kundalini, originally embedded within subtle yogic and tantric systems, which required severe discipline and careful transmission, are often transformed into simplified, generalized symbols of wellness or self-help branding. And perhaps no symbol demonstrates the semantic displacement more dramatically than the swastika. For millennia within Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jain traditions, the swastika symbolized auspiciousness, well-being, harmony, and cosmic order. Yet, in the 20th century, the symbol became globally redefined through European political extremism. In much of the modern world, its ancient sacred meanings became almost entirely eclipsed by its later political appropriation. Now, that symbol was found in many cultures. In Hinduism, again, it's a symbol of auspiciousness, good luck. And bizarrely, a recent fact brought out by CONA, Coalition of Hindus of North America, it is said that Hitler and the Third Reich never used the Sanskrit Hindu word swastika. They used the Christian term Hakenkreuz, same symbol basically, but this had Christian connotations, the Hakenkreuz. Why it was termed swastika? Well, you figure that one out. Take the blame off the Christians and put it somewhere else. So what we see here are the consequences of semantic colonialism. Severe ramifications of taking words out of context. That's why Rishi Kalidasa said, Vagarta vihiva sampritau. Words and their meanings are ever united like a marriage. That's why Saiva Hindu Guru Patanjali said, much to the demise of today's spurious yoga teachers, Sabdhyananukti vastu sunyo vikalpaha. You are deluded. Enter into delusion when you take word knowledge devoid of facts. Today's so-called Ashtanga Yoga is antithetical to the Ashtanga Yoga taught by the Saiva Hindu Guru Patanjali, who was teaching male, Hindu, renunciate yogis in training. So all of this results not only in distortion, but complete displacement. Children, in this case Hindu children, may grow up totally disconnected from their own civilizational memory. Sacred words can become emptied of their depth and transformed into fashionable labels. Lululemon. Ancient traditions become exotic products, packaged for consumption. Why don't people call what they do stretching and relaxation? Because it's not chic. They won't have as many students. What happens is the original teachers and whole communities become marginalized, while commercial reinterpretations become globally dominant. The process may begin subtly, because it often appears progressive, marketable, entertaining, universal, yet beneath the surface lies a recurring historical pattern. Civilizations lose interpretive control over their own language, symbols, and traditions. Ask people today, is yoga Hindu? They'll say, what? Many have absolutely zero clue. Are there any Hindus teaching quote-unquote yoga in any public venue? No, they can't, because they would have to be honestly teaching their religion. Now, balance and nuance, they remain essential. Not every adaptation or cross-cultural exchange constitutes colonialism. Human civilization has always evolved through interaction and mutual influence. It's not whether traditions may be shared, but whether they are shared with honesty, respect, and transparency. If one wants to become a teacher of what should be called Hatha Yoga, or any of the Hindu yogas, they would first and foremost have to become a Hindu, and then they could teach. This would be true with any of the religions of the world, and true to any religion. The basic teachings are always offered on a donation basis. Can't make a business out of it. Totally oxymoronic to say there's spiritual on the one hand, which means incorporeal, and then it becomes a business on the other. And a six-figure yoga teacher with 200 hours? Wow. What can you do in 200 hours? Now, a healthy exchange represents and acknowledges the truth of something. We've talked about the classic yogas. Here's a pictorial that shows you how this is the Hindu lifestyle. Really, that one word defines what it is to be a Hindu. This is the lifestyle of Hindus. Karma, Bhakti, Raja, Jnana. This is the way to nirvana. Chariya, Kriya, Yoga, Jnanam to the Tamils. Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dhara, Dhyana, Samadhi. Karmakanda, Upasanakanda, Yanakanda. So an honest person, an honest exchange, preserves the depth, and it respects context, and honors the living tradition rather than erasing it and replacing it. This extends beyond Hinduism and concerns all civilizations. Same thing is being done to Buddhism with the mindfulness. Mindful of what? Making living traditions into commercial products, detached from their roots. And what happens when you detach something from its roots? It quickly dies. Whenever complex realities become simplified into ideological slogans, semantic colonialism emerges. The danger is not only political domination, but civilizational amnesia at best. A people without memory become easy to manipulate. A civilization disconnected from its language, its symbols, and sacred meanings becomes vulnerable to total distortion and theft. When societies forget the depth behind their own traditions, they may gradually inherit interpretations imposed from outside of themselves. Now, the antidote begins with knowledge. Note here, 2,000 years ago, in Brihad Aranyakupanishad, the Rishi said, Asatoma Sadgamaya, lead me from untruth to truth, unreal to real, spurious or phony to real. To study traditions deeply doesn't mean that we are exclusionary, it means we are respectful. To acknowledge origins is not division in a negative sense, though natural division is just that. It is intellectual integrity. To preserve sacred meanings is not hostility towards others, it's the protection of civilizational memory. Now, perhaps this is why the modern world so desperately requires balance. That's our basic theme, restoring balance. We see one extreme seeks rigid ownership and exclusion. That's the pure, if you will, fundamentalist. But the other extreme is the New Age universalist, if you will. New Age, Old Age. What it does, it dissolves all distinctions until sacred traditions lose all meaning. Now, wisdom lies neither in hostility nor erasure, but in a centered, balanced, truthful understanding. Colonialism may no longer wear the same uniforms it once did. Yet the deeper mindset, the impulse to redefine, commercialize, simplify, and control the meanings of other civilizations has not disappeared. In fact, it's getting stronger. Now, perhaps the first step toward genuine decolonization is not political, but intellectual, rational, humble, reclaiming depth, restoring context, and remembering the meanings that civilizations once carried within their sacred words. Remember that all of these dedicated people following their specific religious traditions through the years, others would not have anything to hopefully learn from and hopefully not steal from. So, in our next session together, we're going to look at some more means for restoring the balance. Namaste, Namaskaram, Vanakkam, Namo Namaha, Jai Ganesha, Jai Hindu Yoga Dharma.